this something you learned? Were you born an entrepreneur?
You got to start small.
I have not allowed being a woman to hold me back.
Credibility is not just making money, it's about making sure that people trust what you're doing.
Law practice is not only about going to court, it's about advice.
It's very difficult to hire somebody who's not motivated and then make them motivated.
One of the things that I'm known for is integrity.
They have to see you as a person of integrity. It was
right. Hello and welcome to the Executive Lounge. I'm Inshira Ado. This is your thought leadership show that brings you the insights from the work and lives of men and women who have scaled the daunting heights of either starting their own businesses or managing institutions and growing them across the globe and right here at home. Today we're joined by Dr. Letitia Appiah, who is the head or the executive director at the National Population Council. She is a medical specialist and she's passionate about public health. And today we're going to learn about the population boom. Is it truly an opportunity for Africa, or that could be a ticking time bomb that we need to manage? You're welcome to the Executive Lounge.
Thank you, sir.
It's a pleasure to have you here because population is something that's quite interesting. I remember in the 80s and early 90s, there was a lot of drive about managing our, population and Ghana Social Marketing Foundation was constantly marketing family planning and things like that. Now, Africa is being touted as becoming the fastest growing continent by 2045. Is that a good thing?
Well, Insha, thank you so much for the opportunity. Yes, it's good, but then it has to be controlled. Or managed. Population, just like the human being, can't keep growing. There's a time that you have to stabilize. And so with population. You said in the 80s, there was a lot of social marketing about family planning, because then the politicians or the policymakers saw family planning as an economic intervention, not just health intervention. So they treated it as such. But then some economists came around and said, no, it's just a health intervention and not really an economic intervention. So then it was shifted to health. And it competing with non-communicable diseases, competing with immunizations and all that. So then the focus on family planning went down. You see, Inshira, I would see population as the human being. You understand? You grow, when you are born, you grow. Then you get to a certain height, you get to a certain weight, and you stay there. You don't keep expanding. You have to stabilize. That is how population too is. Initially, we had high fertility and high mortality because we didn't have a lot of medicines developed. Hygiene was poor. Vaccines were not there. So we were very fast. We delivered fast, and we exited as fast as we came. But then, with medicine developing, with hygiene, especially with immunization. Now we have 13 immunizations against the killer disease. It's not just 6 now, it's 13. From 0 to 1.5 years, you have immunization to prevent childhood mortalities. So mortality has come down, and nature likes stabilization. So if mortality has come down, then I think we need an ecological balance. Fertility should also come down so that we get to that stable situation again. So we were very high, stable. Now we have to be low, stable. Otherwise, we can't keep growing.
But it's quite interesting. If you juxtapose the submission you just gave with our cultural understanding of how important family is. We're a very communal society. We like to have a big family. Children back then were seen as wealth for the family. Can we still look at it as such?
Well, Inshira, back then we didn't believe in education. Back then, those who went to school were those who were lazy, those who couldn't go to farm. Is that the case now?
No.
Are children still tilling the land? Now you can get a tractor or a machine to do everything. So then the focus should shift on the quality of the human resource. Inshira, God creates and human beings create. So the value or the quality of our lives depends on the durable assets that we create. the durable assets, the hospitals, the schools, the roads, the hotels, the utility services, and that depends on professionals. It depends on engineers, on doctors, on service providers, and all that. And that will depend on training. And the training will have to have standards for training for us to have the quality of human resource that we would need to develop the durable assets that would enhance our lives. If you take things out of the world, it's left with what God created, which means that human beings do create. And the quality of what we create would depend on the quality of the human resource. The quality of the human resource, as you and I know, starts from the home. It starts from the soil that nurtures the seed. So it starts from conception through to delivery, through to upbringing. And then you get to that level where you become productive for the economic development of your nation. So that is how it is.
So that said, what would be our optimum structure in terms of the population? Because sometimes from a cursory look, you would notice that people who are doing maybe your blue and white collar jobs tend to have a smaller family, and then what you call the broad base of the pyramid tend to have a lot more children. Is that the optimum structure of our population? How do we ensure that in spite of the impending explosion, we're poised to harness the human capital that we have?
If you look at from the 2017, I think, 2017 World Population Prospects, you see that for the world structure, it's the 0 to 14, 0 to 14, and then 15 to 65, and 65 and above. Because you know that 0 to 15, they are total dependent.
That's right.
They consume electricity, they consume healthcare, they consume water, meanwhile they don't produce anything. Fine. If you look at the structure, the global structure, just 26% of our population is under 15 years. Just 26%. If you look at Ghana, it's 38%. If you look at Africa, it's 41%. So which means that the dependency ratio is high. Inshallah, let's go back, because I'm a medical doctor, I like going back to that level. You see, you have ever done a lab test, right?
That's right.
You take the results, the biomedical scientist does the test, takes the results to the doctor, and the doctor interprets the results. And in that result, we have limits. There is fasting blood sugar. The limit is 4.4 to 6.6. There is HB with the limits written. The WBCs with the limits written. So life has limits within which optimal health is. So likewise your BP, likewise your weight. They tell you about your BMI. If it's between 18.5 and 25, it's normal. Up to 30,
you're obese.
You're obese. That is how it is. So the population also has a unique structure that we need to obey for optimal growth. It doesn't mean that you can't do whatever you want. The doctor can tell you to lose weight and you say that I can buy my clothes, so I would eat and just expand in clothes. But then you would pay for it. Yeah. You would have the joint pains, you would have the cardiac arrest, you would have suboptimal health. Likewise, the population.
Wow. Now, it's quite intriguing when you explain it, you know, from the medical perspective. And how then have we not been able to, as a nation, focus on this so that everyone in whatever sphere of life they are in the country will have a better understanding of what they ought to do to contribute to that optimal population structure?
Fine, Nishra, thank you. Let me go back a bit. You see, now I come to the demography. I've finished with the medicine.
That's right.
Now I come to demography. The demographers will tell you that the replacement level fertility is 2.1. That is the replacement level fertility.
So for every one person that exits, we shouldn't have more than 2 or 2.1?
Yes, 2.1. Because you see, you take it that a man and the woman would give birth to 2 to replace themselves. And then to stabilize, you need a 0.1 just to grow. You know, so that is what the demographers say. The replacement level fertility is 2.1. And all the countries that have made it, Malaysia, we keep comparing ourselves to, Malaysia got to the replacement level fertility 2.1 in 2010.
Wow.
India got to replacement level fertility, I think last year or 2 years ago. So then when you get there, you just develop economically. Because what happens is that you free out resources. You know, we talk about the demographic dividend, which I say it's not automatic. but it is optional and conditional. It is just like losing weight. You can declare 2018 the year of weight loss for Ghanaians, but it's not automatic. You have to do something to get to that. That is how the demographic dividend is. And it will have to start with reducing the births, because now mortality has come down. Nature likes stabilization. Ensure you breathe in and you breathe out to support life. If we have reduced mortality, then we have to also look at fertility for us to develop well. You see, a country like Norway is the happiest country per the 2017 UN Happiness Report. And I went into Norway's data. The contraceptive prevalence rate of Norway is 82%.
Wow.
Dependency ratio of Norway is about 55%. So there's less stress. So of course you'll be happy. So we have to study nature and just do what we have to do. You cannot say that I want to keep a normal body weight, but for me, I would insist on eating fufu in the morning, banku in the evening, and fufu in the afternoon, and keep a normal body weight. You can do that, but you will not get the results that you anticipate.
Wow. You know, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I'd like us to explore, I mean, there's several examples of nations that have controlled their population or managed their population and have also grown their economies. What did they do differently, and what can we do? I mean, we're already behind in terms of our target of 2.1. I think at the moment Ghana
that's
is somewhere.
The replacement level.
The replacement level.
Even in our policy, we're talking about 3.
So we are still conservative and we're saying 3.
And
but even that, we're about 4 point
yeah.
something.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to find some interesting ways and creative ways to start looking at ensuring that we're not increasing that and we're getting closer to the 2.1, because, and then we'll explain how that plays into economic development. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Executive Lounge, and my guest, Dr. Letitia Appiah, has been sharing insights on what it will take for Ghana and, for that matter, Africa, to ensure that we have optimal population structure, to ensure that we have better services for everyone, and more importantly, that our economies will flourish like those of Malaysia, Singapore, Norway, and all the other countries that we tend to compare ourselves to. Now, I'd like you to share some insights from our demographics, what we have today, and whether that puts us at risk or puts us in a place of opportunity.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much. You know, demographic parameters are just 3.
Okay.
We have fertility, mortality, and migration. So how you come in, how you exit, in between you manage yourself, you know. So fertility, you can have planned pregnancies, you can have unplanned pregnancies, you can have teenage pregnancies, you can have child marriages, all contributing to the population, because they're going to give birth to human beings.
That's right.
You know, but then would we want our teenagers to be pregnant? In Ghana, for instance, we have 14.2%.
Wow.
Yes, child marriage is 27%.
27%?
Yes. And then we have unplanned, that is mistimed, or, I mean, pregnancies that probably had finished. They didn't want to have any more children, but then by accident they had. We have 17% of those.
Wow.
And you know, for these, and then we have those who have actually married and want to have children in the optimal age group, and they're also producing.
All competing for the same services.
All competing for the same services because they are all antenatal mothers, you know. But you have these 3 groups: the child marriage, the teenage pregnant woman or girl, and then you have those who carry on unplanned pregnancies.
Okay.
Most of the time, as a medical doctor, these 3 categories of people don't access antenatal clinics early. Teenage pregnant mothers would come probably when they are about 5-6 months pregnant. They say, I feel there's something in my tummy. You examine and you see that the child is pregnant. You know, those who have unplanned marriages, most of the time are in denial because they were not expecting to be pregnant. They all add on. They don't attend antenatal clinics early, and they tend to be high-risk pregnancies. Then in Shira, you have those who have married, those who are looking forward to childbearing, those who have prayed and God has given them fruits of the womb. They miss their period, they go for antenatal, they do all they need to do, all the medications they take. So then their pregnancies, they go through pregnancy, very normal, very healthy, HB levels are okay, and everything is okay.
Unless, of course, there's some rare underlying conditions that predisposes them to
Exactly, but majority of them, I mean, if you take your antihematinics, you are happy about your pregnancy. You know, their mood is also very important. You are happy about your pregnancy. They tell you to eat vegetables, you eat the vegetables. But if you are an unplanned pregnancy, they tell you to eat vegetables, you will stop because you will think that, I mean, you don't want the child, so you're not going to harness its growth, you know. So what happens in Shira is you can, unfortunately, have these two people, this set of people, the teenage pregnant, the unplanned one, and the one that is planned, in labor at the same time. And per medical training, you have to triage. It means that you have to identify those who are at risk and attend to them.
So you prioritize the risk based on risk level?
Yes, based on risk levels. And from beginning, teenage pregnancies are risky pregnancies because they are teenagers to start with. And then also they don't come for antenatal early. So you would have the health workers spending all their time attending to the
most risky
category, and then somehow leaving the one that is less risky. And before you are aware, the less risky had turned into an emergency situation too. But then, if we have policies that would make sure that teenagers are not, they have no business in maternity homes. They have no business in the labor wards. You know, we have 30% unmet need for family planning. Wow. If we can spread family planning with political will and funding, spread it, that would also reduce. So then unplanned pregnancies will reduce. As I said, in Norway, the contraceptive prevalence rate is 82%. In Ghana, it's 22.2.
Wow.
Meanwhile, the immunization is fully immunized 77, so there's a gap. And all these are passing through. You understand? So that happens, in fact, unfortunately, in the health facilities. So you may even end up losing the one who has actually prepared and wants the child to take care of. You may actually maybe even lose that woman or create complications for her in the near future. So it is very, very important that we take population seriously.
You know, from my layman's deduction of what you've just said, it seems that because of the gaps we have and the fact that you're looking at what, 17% of, or 17% teenage pregnancies, 14 unplanned, and also 27 child marriage, in a population that already is a little lopsided, because we have what, 38% in the lower bracket of up to dependent.
Yes, up to 15.
Exactly.
That's the youth dependent.
Yes, and a large chunk of that is also contributing to you know, the replacement numbers. Now, how can we creatively ensure that we are driving towards a reduction and a realignment of our dependency ratios, so that maybe come 2050, when Africa's population is supposed to double, we are better positioned to ensure that we have a solid working force, because that's what, 18 years from now, thereabouts. That at that time, we're able to have the right population to feed the economy.
Yeah, we have good lessons from Rwanda. We keep referring to Rwanda, you know, and Rwanda has it's a political will and commitment. You understand, and funding for the program. You know, they have decided that the growth rate will not help them with economic development. You know, Rwanda has done something that the whole world hasn't done so far. You know, in 2000, the contraceptive prevalence rate in Rwanda was just 4%. 4%. In 2005, it's now about 45% in 2010.
Okay.
You know, so from 4% to 45%.
In a decade.
In a decade, which means that they actually put effort to it. And what they do, they have work days, monthly work days, that the politicians speak about the country accepting small family size as norm. And reproductive health family planning is part of what the politicians speak about, you know. And they have champions in family planning right from the presidency to the community level and ownership. And they tell you that, you know, family planning is not restrictive. Family planning actually releases your energy so that you can excel. You know, it frees you to harness your God-given talent. You get it. So, but we need political will. We need the politicians to stand on platforms and say we want a small. We're not asking people not to give birth. I think we have to have standards for our lives. You understand, Inshra? Ghana Standards Board has standards for the things the human beings use. But what standards do we have for the human being? What standards do we have for our children? Is the standards the children on the street? Is that the standard we have set? You know, so we should have the standards and make sure that we all fall within the standards. If we want a community where 80% of our population is SHS, then we have to make sure that 80% of our population is HHS, which means that you have to have the number of children you can take care of. You see, I think the economists have to help us. They will have to help us by calculating how much it costs an additional person from birth at least to 18 years. Even if you eat 5 cedis a day, how much will it cost? How much will it cost for clothing? How much will it cost? So that we know. So that when people are having children, they know that at least for the next 18 years, this child will spend about 40,000. Can I afford? That is what is done everywhere. The human resource is key, and the quality of the human resource, it's important.
How has things like, you know, free maternal health contributed to the spike in our population? Do you think it's had an impact?
Yes, sure. Free maternal health is good. But in my mind, I think free maternal health, what is maternal health? Maternal health is not just delivery. Maternal health is family planning. Because you see, when I have a child, I'm not supposed to get pregnant within 6 months again. So maternal health is making sure that I have the services to protect me, not to have another conception, to be able to take care of myself and my baby. That is maternal health. But then, if I have a child and within 6 months I'm pregnant again, the one I'm carrying loses out, I lose out, the one I had loses out. 3 people lose out. So that is it. So free maternal health is family planning. Family planning is a key component. And that is why I don't understand why NHIS is not covering family planning. But you see, I think that is why NHIS is even suffering. Because you see, the cost of taking care of a pregnancy is cheaper, is more expensive than family planning. Abortion care that NHIS covers is more expensive than family planning.
So there's no family planning on the health insurance scheme, but there's abortion care.
Well, because it's emergency care.
Wow.
Because it's emergency care.
So we can be proactive and decide that we'd rather prevent the burden on the scheme by improving our family planning prevalence.
Yes, yes, and it will solve it. You know, there's one paper I read and it says that very few investments reap 15 times the cost of investment, and family planning is one of those investments that reap 15 times. And you know how it does that? It saves the mother's life, it saves the child's life, it increases nutrition. Do you agree?
Yes.
It increases school attendance. Do you agree? It reduces water scarcity. It protects our environment. It helps the police. It helps the prison services. You want me to go on?
Then you have less population to worry about.
Exactly.
Clearly, there will be less of pressure on the resources and the services that we need.
Yes.
So let's just paint this hypothetical picture. Let's dream a bit. You're the executive director of the National Population Council, and you have decent resources. How would you, over the next 3 years, change the face of family planning, our appreciation of it, and the programs that you think you'd put in place to ensure that we're at that optimal population density and structure?
Yeah, Insha. You know that for every program, you need advocacy. You need the people's buy-in. So then we're going to have programs with the media and talk about how family planning benefits you as an individual, benefits the family, benefits the community and the nation. You see, because poverty or riches has intergenerational consequences. Rich families produce rich generations. Likewise, poor families. And I don't think anybody wants to be poor, you see. And you can be rich if you have the number of children you can take care of. There is no security in having too many children who are poor. There is better security in having few people who are rich. So that is one of the, I mean, we'll have to have skits to tell people that this is in your own interest. This is in the community's interest, you know. So that is one. Then the other thing is service provision, because you can talk about it. If the services are not there, what would you have done? You know, so what others have done in Indonesia and all those places, in addition to the static clinics, they have mobile clinics. Okay. Indeed, I'm talking to the Minister of Planning, Professor Jambafo, and we're coming out with something like that. So we have mobile clinics, you know, that will go around the districts. I mean, map up the very deprived areas if we don't have money to go around all of them, but go around the districts and tell them about family planning and offer the service for them. You see, because it is good that we're having one district, one factory. It's excellent. But in my mind, it's walking on one leg. Because you see, if you build a district, I had 2 children when you build a district. Then I got pregnant, I had 3. So you see?
So already there's a bit of pressure on the resources.
Exactly, on the resources. But then if the district comes with my mobile clinic or the family planning, then I would be freed to even join the labor force. And the children would also have the optimal, you know. Because when people give birth, they don't build extra houses. So if you are 10, you stay in that same room. And communicable diseases, TB, easily spreads, congestions and all that. So that's one. Then the service provision, I said, the mobile clinics to supplement the static clinics. Because it is, for me, so important that we have to take it to the people. And it will have to be free to take to the people. And then also, we would need political will. We would need political will. We would need authorities in the communities, authorities in the regions, in the district, to speak to it. Because when politicians speak, it goes very far. You know, so those are some of the things that...
It's quite interesting. Now, one of the things that I recall learning about, you know, the rural-urban migration, and Ghana has had its own fair share of challenges in terms of the spread of infrastructure. So let's just, you know, let me be Mr. Preacher of Doom, that we're not going to get the kids off the street in the short term. In that same time, people are reproducing. Your 3 categories of unplanned, teenage, and child marriage, these things are still happening. How should we tackle that with 2050 in our sights?
Sure. Population management is foundational. Population management, I akin it to the foundation of a building. If the foundation is not strong, you can stand on it. And if you look at things critically, the development that is going on is actually following population. It's not infrastructure deficit. I would tell you the reason why I think so, yes. You see, Insha, our population growth rate is 2.5. In Upper East, it's 1.2. In Greater Accra, it's 3.1.
Whoa.
Meanwhile, the total fertility rate in Upper East is 4.9. Greater Accra is 2-point-something. But so you see, because the fertility rate is so high up, and because the people are poor, they migrate. So even though the fertility rate is high, the growth rate is small.
Because most of them have moved down south.
Because most of them have moved down south. And because most of them have moved down south, the place looks more stable, a bit stable. So, and even though the infrastructure deficit is there, because they have moved down south and because it's stable, we're not putting hospitals there. But because they have moved down south and there's pressure on down south, we are expanding the services down south. So we are still following the population with infrastructure. So till we get the population dynamics right, then we will really look at infrastructural deficits in the regions and put the infrastructural deficits
You
there.
mentioned Rwanda. We've talked about Malaysia and their targeting. I mean, there's been certain practices elsewhere. I think India was cited for some very dark
Crude,
stuff,
yeah.
you know, sterilizing people
Yeah.
and things like that. Is that something that we ought to consider?
For me, that is unethical.
Okay.
That is unethical.
So how do you stop someone, I mean, how do you, beyond appealing to their conscience and painting this picture of either glory or doom to them and get them to buy into ensuring that they have what they can look after?
Sure. I think that innately, every human being wants a good life. Otherwise, there is no way people will cross the Mediterranean and try to go anywhere. It's only for a good life. So if they can get the good life here, why wouldn't they? And if it takes this and this and that to get the good life, I think we are rational human beings. You know, we've just assumed that culturally we won't do it and this, we won't do it. But let's take it to them and let them refuse. Then we can say that we did it and they refused. We rejected education. But then now that we know it's good, we're all going into education. So if it will give you a good life, why not? You know, look at those who have been sold in Libya and all those things. Look at the citizens. Nigerians are there. Niger is there. Niger, the total fertility rate is 7. Nigeria is 5.5. You don't get Australians there. You don't get Norwegians over there because they are comfortable in their homes. Because they are comfortable in their homes. So if you say that you want a good life, this is what it takes to get a good life. This is what they did, and they're enjoying.
So at the core of ensuring that we have a stronger economy, services are reaching everyone, and also ensuring that we're growing and having a good life, comes down to the population.
Comes down to the population. Because like I said, Inshira, the human beings are creators. So the quality of your skill will determine the quality of your creation.
Mm-hmm.
That is it.
Wow.
The road network we have will determine the road network that we can build. Otherwise, we'll bring people in to build for us. People are not going from Ghana to build the roads in Europe because probably, I mean, not probably, because they have the skills. Why are we bringing people here to our oil rigs? Because we don't have the skills. So if we want to mine our oil, then we have to invest in the human resource, because the human resource is the only resource that creates after God created.
Wonderful. We're going to take our final break, and when we come back, we'll learn some more from Dr. Letitia Appiah. It's been revelatory, and I hope you enjoyed it so far. Catch you in a bit. Welcome back to the final part of this episode of the Executive Lounge, and I'm with my guest, Dr. Letitia Appiah. She is the Executive Director of the National Population Council. Very insightful conversation so far, and this is when, you know, when I have good conversations like this, I wish we had a lot more time on the show, but unfortunately we don't, and we probably could do a part 2 someday. But it seems those who are economically disadvantaged, to put it bluntly, seems the poor are the ones having more children. Why is it so?
Sure, I think I'll put it differently. Okay. I think we are failing them. We are failing them with education. We are failing them with the services. Sure, the poor are immunizing their children because we are focusing on immunization. So they are doing it. So if we would focus on family planning, they will. If they understand that it inures to their benefit, it reduces maternal mortality, they would. Which woman wants to die and leave the child? They don't have a choice, Inshira. If they had a choice, nobody will sell their children. I've never heard of the rich selling their children in Ghana, but the poor are selling them because they have 6, 7 they can't take care of.
How did they get there?
How do they get where?
Yeah, I mean, when you're having, you know, how do people who struggle to look after their own children end up having so many children?
Sure, when you get married, having sex and having children are default if you're a normal or fertile human being, you know. And 85% of the time, if you don't have any medical condition, you get pregnant. So you get pregnant till you get to menopause. And that is what is happening to them. That is why along the coast, you can go now and for a bowl of fish, you get a child. And for me, Ishra, even though it's serious on the lighter side, I think it's an economic loss even to the state. Because you see, NHIS will take care of these children. When they are pregnant, we pay for the mothers to get pregnant. We take care of the pregnancy, we immunize the children, they go to school, we pay for, and then the mothers sell them for peanuts. So why can't we prevent it if they don't want the child? If you look at a Ghana Living Standard Survey, the sixth one, the poverty, about a quarter of our people are below the poverty line, which means that they live on 1,314 Ghana cedis per annum. Wow. 1,314 Ghana cedis per annum for 3, 4, 5 children. That is not possible. You know, look at those who are crossing the Mediterranean. They're not from the rich homes. They are from mainly the cash-strapped homes, which means that they want a good life, but they don't know how to. So I think that we have failed them. Let's give them the education. Let's give them the services. Let's tell them it is good and let them not take it. In the 70s, we were less educated, but family planning uptake went up because we were focusing on it. Immunization has gone up because we are focusing on it. If we focus on family planning, Inshira, I tell you that what happened in Rwanda, what happened in Malawi, and is happening in Ethiopia, and has happened in the Western world would surely happen in Ghana and in Africa.
Let's learn about you. I mean, you're clearly passionate about what you do. Who's Letitia?
Inshira, you know why I'm passionate about what I do?
Tell me.
You know, I am passionate about what I do because we are interdependent. I would want one day in Ghana for the Food Vendors Association that is so educated to come out and say that henceforth we are not going to sell banku in plastic bags because our research department shows that banku in plastic bags is dangerous to our health. We can only do that with an educated population. So I want to think about the people whilst they think about me. The food vendor should think about the customer. The pharmacist, when you go out, would call you, come for your refill. When you forget, that is how I want the situation to be. Then I know that you can also rest because the food vendor is thinking about you, your mason is thinking about you, your carpenter is thinking about you, because we are really interdependent.
Interesting stuff. So you assumed office about just over a year or so ago.
Yes. So who is Letitia? You asked and I
yes.
went back. Well, Letitia is a medical doctor. I went to ANT1 primary school in Newtown, and then I went to Ola Secondary School from Form 1 to Form 5, and I moved from there to Achimota, 6th form, and from Achimota I went to Ukraine, in Ukraine, to study medicine. So I speak very good Russian.
Oh, good.
And I came back in 1994 and I worked with Ghana Health Service from 1994 to last year when I was appointed the Executive Director of the National Population Council.
Interesting. What do you do to relax?
What do I do to relax? Inshra, I exercise a lot because I believe that if you want to look good, you have to do foundational issues. You know, if you invest in your body, anything will look good on you. So I do exercise. And apart from that, I think people don't know what they miss by not exercising because it gives you so much health. It gives you so much energy. You know, it takes oxygen into your body and it refreshes you. You don't go to the hospital with sicknesses, with those type of pains. So I like exercising and I love reading too.
Okay, that's fantastic. And you clearly, you know, the concept of interdependence is not something that I have quite heard articulated like that. Yeah. Are you hopeful about Ghana's prospects for managing our population?
Yes, I am hopeful because, you see, the Bible tells us that there is a straight and narrow way. I urge you to choose life, but you can choose any. Not choosing is a choice, but choosing life is active. If you want to do anything good, it doesn't happen by default. You have to actively intervene. I'm sure that is why the Bible urges us to choose this path, because that you have to take an effort to do. But the other one, you don't really need to do much to get to that level, you know. I think that Ghana, we need to, in fact, I don't think it's even a choice that whether we want to get there or not. If we want a good life, like the Africa we want, like the Agenda 2030 we're talking about, we have to visualize the Africa we want. And for me, the Africa I want, the Ghana I want, is the interdependent Ghana, where my mason is so educated that the mason can tell me that, let's use this, let's use that. You know, I don't have to come and tell the mason, it is not straight, it is crooked. The mason knows his or her job to offer me a service that I'll be pleased with, you know. So life is about service. It's about serving one another. So when the mason is doing his job and doing it well, the food vendor is thinking about me and doing the job well, and the carpenter is doing his or her job well, then the doctor is doing his or her job well, the teacher is doing his or her job well, but it will all depend on standards that we set and the value that we put on ourselves.
Wow. Well, I'd like to say a big thank you to you for making time to join us on the Executive Lounge. These are the 5 things I am taking away from this conversation. Number 1 is that focus brings results. And this is borrowing from the example of how today child mortality has gone down. Why? Because we're ensuring that pretty much every child that is born in this country receives immunization. And number 2 is that you cannot build without a strong foundation. The examples abound. The examples in Rwanda, Malaysia, Norway, they abound. In fact, in Letitia's own life, that she loves to read, she loves acquiring knowledge. Look where that's got her. So you have a chance as well, that if you ensure you're building the right foundation and also ensuring that in terms of the size of your families, you're building the right foundation. Ghana benefits, Africa benefits, you will benefit not just in this generation, but generations after you. Third thing I've also picked up is passion. I've never seen anybody really distill population using several different analogies like Letitia has done. And so if you're passionate about something, go all out with it, because through that passion, you unearth several layers, you understand it better, you articulate it better, and you can inspire other people. Number 4 is direction. She wants to look good, she wants to be healthy, so she exercises. Have a plan for your life. Decide that you want certain specific things throughout your life and work towards them. And number 5 for me is the humanity. Letitia clearly cares about you, who she may not even meet until you all reach the gates of heaven. But she is hoping that we can have a society where you have a good life and we all have a good life. This has been the Executive Lounge with me, Inshirado. Until we see you again next week, be good, go forward, make rain. Shalom.